The Edmonton Oilers are tied at 2 games apiece with the Vancouver Canucks in their second round playoff series. It is time for a very special edition of Locked On Oilers, good cop, bad cop, and yes, there is a police officer in the room.
You are Locked On Oilers, your daily podcast on the Edmonton Oilers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to today's edition of Locked On Oilers. My name is Nick Sararis. I'm very glad to be here. We are almost at a full month of me as interim host of Locked On Oilers. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. So, today's episode, very straightforward. If you're familiar with the stereotypical police procedural, the good cop comes in, tries to convince you he's on your side. Excuse me, I bungled that terribly. The bad cop comes in first and bullies you. They try to strong arm you into admitting you did something that you didn't do. Then the good cop comes in and tries to soften you up because you just got bullied, you just got strong armed, and the good cop's going to come in and I'm your friend. Yeah, don't worry about him, worry about me. You can tell me I'm on your side. I'm not like him. And then the third segment, that'll be the white shirt. If you're familiar with the New York Police Department, the non-officers wear blue shirts, that dark navy blue uniform that you've probably seen on like Law and Order. And the officers, they wear a white shirt tucked into navy pants. So that'll be the third segment, is the adult in the room coming to check things in. So starting off, Rip, the good news. The Oilers have not played very well in this series, and they are still tied 2-2. It is a best of 3, and the Oilers have had some of the worst goaltending imaginable. I went and pulled some of the numbers. So prior to Calvin Pickard starting game number 4, Stuart Skinner was 20th of 21 goalies who have made at least one start in the playoffs in goals saved above expected. The only goalie who had been worse than Stuart Skinner in terms of goals saved above expected, Connor Hellebuck, who only lasted 5 games in that first round series against the Colorado Avalanche, who are up right now on the Dallas Stars. That hard look over to my right, if you're watching on YouTube, was me checking the score of the game to make sure I was still being accurate as of the point. Building off of that, as a team, the Oilers have an .881 save percentage in the postseason. Stuart Skinner, .877. That is 20th of any goalie in the playoffs. That includes guys who have come in relief, like Laurent Brossoit and Ilya Sorokin and Semyon Varlamov had come in for each other. So that's a little bit less bad, but still not good. When you have 16 teams in the playoffs, you ideally would like all of your stats to be at least higher than 12th if we're going to talk about comparison to the other playoff teams. But what is working for the Oilers, and why should you believe they can get better? They are third of any team in goals scored. And you got to remember, they only played 5 games in the first round. They're 4 games into their series now. The Rangers and Canes are going into game 6 on Saturday. Edmonton is putting the puck in the net. Their star players are delivering in the most important of situations. Right now, if you were to give out the Conn Smythe for playoff MVP, Leon Draisaitl has a really strong argument. He has been stupendous, and that feels like underselling it. I feel this is, I don't want to say his coming out party because everybody knows he's great. I think this is he's not BSing this. This is not, he's a product of McDavid. This is one of the best power play specialists in the entire league. And he's got a little bit of snarl to his game. And he's found that extra gear you need. And yeah, I've been a little critical of Leon's defense. He could always stand to be a little bit better defensively. Pardon me as I reach over. You probably just heard my chair creak, but I do need a sip of water here before I continue talking about why you should believe in the Edmonton Oilers. This isn't Joe Hendry. This isn't TNA. You don't have to believe in Joe Hendry, but you should believe in the Edmonton Oilers. 14th in goals against. You marry third in goals for, 14th in goals against. Remember, we only have 16 teams in the playoffs. You marry those two together, you average it out, you get 19. 19 divided by 2 is about 9.5, 9.5. So if they're on average the 9.5 best team, 9.5, that's not a word. The 9.5, the best team, we'll round up. We'll say they've been the 10th best team in terms of goals for, but they've still found a way to be in a position where they're not in absolute control, but they have a really good shot of winning in this series against Vancouver, even though you haven't played well. Of the 14 goals they've scored in this round, the split is 9-5. 5 power play goals, 9 even strength. 10 different players have points in this series. That tells me there's room for some positive regression from guys lower in the lineup. Now, when we talk about some of the bottom 6 guys, and that'll largely be in the bad cop segment as to why you maybe should be a little bit concerned, but the big reason I think you should believe in the Oilers. Colorado scored again. Colorado staying alive, just like the Bruins, in difficult circumstances, injuries, suspensions. Good for the Avalanche staying alive. Cale Makar has had an incredible game tonight. The reason I think you should feel the Oilers can pull this out is because Chris Knoblauch is good at this. And I know you're going to say, especially if you're a little bit skeptical of the Oilers as an Oilers fan, you're a little bit scarred from previous playoff runs, previous coaches. He's got a really good feel for this team. Him having the conviction to go to Pickard, that takes a lot of guts as a head coach who doesn't have his future set in stone. You know, this goes bad. I could see Ken Holland not getting his contract renewed, a new general manager coming in and wanting to put his own stamp on the team and bringing in his new coach. To go to a goalie who has basically no experience. The last time Calvin Pickard was an above average goalie in the NHL, Barack Obama was still president. The 2 best seasons of Calvin Pickard's NHL career were 2014-15 and 15-16. That is an entirely different NHL. Jamie Benn won the Art Ross with 87 points one year. That is another planet. Rick Nash was like second in goals with 43 or 44 in 2015. That is an entirely different NHL. And to go to that guy in that situation where you basically needed it, you know, you lose that game and you go down 3-1 going back to Vancouver. I think the Oilers are good. I don't think they can beat the Canucks 3 times in a row. That's a really tall order for any team. The Canucks are good. I know the Canucks haven't played particularly well in this series, and that's going to be part of the argument for bad cop as to why the Oilers might need to be worried. But man, you get that. And on top of that, he also had the conviction to finally split up Nurse and Ceci, demote Darnell Nurse. He went from a little over 18 minutes to 16:09, game 3 to game 4. Minute and a half, minute 45. Doesn't sound like a huge difference. It makes a huge difference. And then the other one, something I had advocated for after the way game number 3 went, splitting up McDavid and Draisaitl at 5-on-5. You got to do it. Your lineup does not have the talent. It does not have the play drivers in that bottom 6 to mitigate the loss of somebody like Draisaitl, who commands so much attention and is able to create plays both for himself and for his line mates. When you have at least one of Leon, Connor, or Bouchard on the ice, you should be able to control play. You split those guys up from each other, and I know the Oilers largely play Bouchard with McDavid, but you split McDavid and Draisaitl up, and those guys are going to play close to half of the 5-on-5 minutes in your game. You control possession close to half of the game. That is going to have a trickle-down impact on your offense, and it's something that the Oilers can build off of. It takes real conviction as a coach to make some of these decisions. I know some of these are not easy. Going to Pickard, splitting up Nurse and Ceci, demoting Nurse, who makes a lot of money, not easy decisions, but you should feel good that Chris Knoblauch is not just deferring to his guys, that he has a feel for what is going to help the team win, and that should encourage you. Coming up next on Locked On Oilers, we're going to talk about maybe why you might be a little bit concerned ahead of Game 5 going back to Vancouver. Coming up next on Locked On Oilers, where we've got your team covered every day. It is put up or shut up time in the National Basketball Association and over here in the National Hockey League. The Avalanche staving off elimination. The Bruins staving off elimination. The Hurricanes staving off elimination. The Oilers leveling their series at 2-2. And if you want to get in on the action and win big, go check in with our friends at FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Thank you to everybody who has made Locked On Oilers a part of your Thursday. If you could be so kind, you should go check out Locked On NHL today, where Hunter Hodes and I are breaking down which of the 8 teams standing is in best shape to still bring home Lord Stanley's Cup. We are in the thick of it, my friends. This is elite hockey being played pretty much every night. And yeah, it takes on different flavors. Each series has a slightly different style. I had compared Stars Avalanche to the SEC. I had said Rangers Canes was the Big Ten. That I guess would make Oilers Canucks the Big 12, and then Panthers Bruins the ACC. And I think I like that comparison, in all honesty. I think it's a good explanation for how different each of these series is being played because of the styles. So, if you're an Oilers fan, you probably know the problems with your team. This is something I have long felt, and it's something that frustrates me about legacy sports media. The conventional sports media, the beat reporter who is attached to legacy media, so a newspaper or a big website like Sportsnet up in Canada, TSN, or down here in the States, The Athletic. I know The Athletic's in Canada too, but primarily America, or the New York Times. They are going to take guys at their word. They maybe don't have as good of a contextualized understanding of maybe why a fan base might be a little melodramatic. And part of the reason I never question a fan kind of overreacting or being dramatic, at least in terms of their own team. When it comes to other teams, yeah, I hate when people start doing the moralizing. Oh, your team's dirty, you're getting all the calls. I hate when people do that because it's disingenuous, and it's not a reasonable conversation to have, because I do think the officials are terrible. I think they are wholly incompetent and do not call the rule book. They call the game how they want to call it. And that is not what the rule book dictates. But in terms of Oilers Canucks, if you want to talk about problems, and Oilers fans have been very vocal about the problems, first starting with Skinner and Pickard, great story to get your first career NHL playoff win at 32 years old. That is the type of resolve that not the average person has. And I know a lot of people, me included, will sometimes roll their eyes at a professional athlete talking about, well, I'm chasing my dream, and it's been really difficult when they see how much money they make, the benefits they get, the lifestyle they're able to live. I can occasionally be cynical about that too. To see a guy like Pickard, who's been on the bubble, I saw somebody tweet the other day, Shilovs versus Pickard in the AHL last year during those playoffs. The journey is part of what makes sports great, and Pickard's journey is fascinating from a human perspective. Do you really think the Oilers are going to be able to play that well in front of him defensively again, to only concede 19 shots on goal? That is a tall ask, especially when you're not going to have last change like the Canucks are going to in Game 5 back in Vancouver. That's a tall order. Can you protect Darnell Nurse and Vinny Desharnais? Can you do that? I don't know where I got Victor Desharnais. I know everybody remembers Turtleneck David Desharnais, but Vinny Desharnais and Nurse were fine. They were also heavily sheltered. They got favorable matchups. That helped. What are you going to be able to do there? And then I think more so than the goaltending, at least for me, this is my opinion. I know a lot of people felt the goaltending was the biggest issue, and it was bad, but I think the Canucks goaltending being such a question mark, and Shilovs has been solid. Shilovs, I think, is 11th in goals saved above expected. So if we want to use our Skinner comparison, we said 16 teams. You start with 16 starters. 12th, it's not great, but it's passable. If the team in front of you is good and you have the 12th most goals saved above expected, your team can go really far in the playoffs. So that's what I'll say on that. My big concern for the Oilers has been the minutes without McDavid and Draisaitl. You heard me talk about this on both of the preview episodes we did with the Locked On Locked On Canucks guys and with the Locked On Kings guys. If the Oilers cannot tread water in the minutes where McDavid and Draisaitl are not on the ice, they're going to have a tough time. They're going to have a tough time. So you heard me mention the stats before about where is the chance creation coming from in the bottom six. So in this series, the Oilers have had 7 different players record at least 1 goal. Leon Draisaitl, Connor McDavid, Evan Bouchard, Matthias Ekholm, Zach Hyman, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Cody Ceci. That's it. Of the 18 skaters, because you dress six defensemen, 12 forwards, and technically, I guess you could say the goalie, but nobody expects the goalie to score. Come on now. Of the 18 skaters, they've had 7 different players contribute a goal. They have had 10 different players contribute a point. A little bit better. 3 more guys contribute. But the big issue, the bottom 6 forwards have not contributed any offense. We're talking Perry, Connor Brown, Ryan McLeod, Holloway, Evander Kane. I know Evander Kane's been floating back and forth between the top 6 and the bottom 6. Warren Fogle as well, same boat. None of those guys has really done a whole lot offensively. When we talk about the Oilers, bottom 6 forwards in terms of time on ice, through 4 games, they have a combined 16 shots on goal. 4 shots on goal per game from 6 guys total combined. We're talking about less than a shot per person. And I understand the Canucks are a good defensive team. There's not a lot of room out there. And that the Oilers are a choosy team. And that when the Oilers bottom 6 is out there, sometimes their play isn't chance creation. It's to hold the puck in the Vancouver zone, to cycle, to try and get them to take a penalty, or just to not be playing defense for 45 seconds to a minute and a half. So the chance creation, the shots on goal, I can understand why the numbers look the way they do. It doesn't mean they're not concerning. The Oilers need more offense. I know they're 3rd in goals for in these playoffs, but the defense being as bad as it has been, the goaltending being as bad as it's been, you need more. And Connor and Leon, Bouchard, Ekholm, Nuge even, Zach Hyman, our 7 guys at CC has a goal, so I'm going to take him out, just being real. Of the 6 guys who are making a discernible impact for the Oilers are killing it in those guys' minutes. They're in control of the puck. They are in the offensive zone. They are making the Canucks play defense. They are doing a great job offensively in their minutes. They need more offense if this is what the defense looks like. Now, the defense and the goaltending start playing better. Okay, maybe you can get by scoring 4 goals a game, 1 of them on the power play, 3 even strength. That formula probably plays. You score 4 goals a game, you're probably going to win a decent majority of your games as long as you're decent defensively and in net. Whether or not Pickard can sustain real, I don't want to say quality minutes, but passable NHL minutes. If Pickard can be passable, the Oilers can get by with really only their top 6 doing a whole lot of offense. And real quick, in the bad cop segment, I did want to mention the Canucks are not playing well, which every Canucks fan I know on social media has been very eager to say, oh, well, if the Oilers can barely beat the Canucks and the Canucks are playing terribly, that means the Oilers shouldn't even bother going to the next round. And while I agree, the Oilers would probably be underdogs and moderate underdogs to either the Avalanche or the Stars. It's a different series. Every game is different. And we're going to talk about that coming up next on Locked On Oilers, where the real police officer that is not a good or a bad cop is going to come into the room. It is busy season in the sports world. Hockey playoffs, basketball playoffs, WNBA season started, Major League Baseball up and running. This Saturday, I am going to see Caitlin Clark play professional basketball at the Barclays Center. And I use the Game Time app to make it happen. The Game Time app is the only app I use when purchasing tickets. So many useful and functional features to help make the user experience better. Last minute deals where you can save up to 60% buying last minute for any type of event. Zone deals when you choose a section and let Game Time choose the seats. All in pricing where there are no hidden fees and you see what you pay when you put the tickets in your cart. The lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. I want to thank everybody who makes Locked On Oilers a part of your day. If you are a daily listener, thank you so much. If you are new to the show, new to the community, you picked a great time, man. The Oilers are in the second round. They've got a real chance of advancing if they clean up just a little bit. And they're genuinely an exciting team to watch because you don't know what you're going to get on a nightly basis. And some of that is fun, where who's going to be the hero tonight? That's a recurring theme in these playoffs, especially in the hockey playoffs, because you cycle through 18 different guys. The only other sport where it's really comparable is football, where you get maybe the third corner makes an interception in the NFC title game, or the kick returner sets up great field position, because let's be honest, nobody returns kicks for touchdowns in the playoffs anymore. But this is what it's all about. You hear Connor, you hear Leon. They understand the expectation is cup or bust. I've talked a lot in the last 3.5, 4 weeks of doing the show about how the vultures are circling. The minute the Oilers got into any semblance of trouble, both against the Kings and this round against the Canucks, it's immediately, oh, well, this is the best they could do around Connor and Leon. They should leave. They should leave. Because every single one of those people wants those players on their team. You add Leon to any of the 31 other teams in the league, instantly better. You add Connor McDavid to any of the other 31 teams in the league, instantly better. And it is frustrating as somebody who just is covering the team. I enjoy the Oilers, but I'm not going to steal the credibility of an Oilers fan who has been through it over the last 5 to 10 years during this McDavid Draisaitl period. Even going back further than that, the Ryan Nugent-Hopkins and Taylor Hall, Niall Yakupov. Sorry, I had to say the name. Maybe I'll bleep it out for the joke just to be funny. But man, I understand your frustration, and seeing other people who have no vested interest in your team root on your team to fail so they can loot your team for players. It's got to be very frustrating. In terms of being the good cop, not the good cop, excuse me, the real cop, the realist, the one who's honest. Playoff series are fickle. Every one of these series is different from the others. You heard me make the college football comparison I did in the last segment about SEC, ACC, Big 12, Big 10, because all of them are a little different. And yes, the Canucks have not played well, and the Oilers aren't playing great, and it's been a real struggle for both teams to kind of pull away from one another. The Canucks have not played well. They really did not have a good game 4. The Oilers don't care. The Oilers pulled one out of their butts, winning with 35, 40 seconds left on the Bouchard goal. Feel good about that. Nobody can take that away from you. Do not let Canucks fans, do not let the national media, oh, well, they got lucky. They're starting a career AHLer. They can't expect to sustain this. If they play Dallas or Colorado, they'll get killed. Sure, maybe they will. But that's why we play the games. Don't ever tell me a series is over before it happens. Don't ever tell me a series is over when it's still going on. Until it's 0-0s, till that final horn, till there's handshakes. Don't tell me, oh, well, if the Oilers play the Stars or the Avalanche, they're going to lose. Okay, let's see it happen. Let's see them play hockey, and let's see who wins 4 out of 7 first. So Canucks fans that are doing that are trying to pee on your shoes and tell you it is raining. Oh, well, you don't even want to go to the next round. You can barely beat us, and you want to go play the Stars or the Avalanche? That is stinking thinking, to quote the drill sergeant in Sopranos when they're trying to send Anthony Jr. to military school. Stinking thinking. Canucks fans have that complex from years of not being good. Oilers fans have the sky is falling from years of being good but not great. There's a difference. To win the Stanley Cup, you need to be great. The Oilers have maybe been great 20 minutes of the entire playoffs where they've really been dominant. They got to find another gear. There's no disputing the Oilers need to play better if they would like to go to the Stanley Cup final. That requires winning 2 more playoff series, including the one they're in right now. That's not easy. Beating Vancouver one time. Vancouver finished first in the Pacific. Beating Vancouver one time is not easy. Beating Vancouver 4 out of 7 times is not easy. Beating Vancouver 2 out of 3 times will not be easy. The Oilers, wholly capable, 100% absolutely capable of winning 2 of the next 3 games going to the next round. Not a doubt in my mind they can do it. Will they do it? That's going to require some adjustments. You heard me in the opening segment say you should believe in Chris Knobloch because he's pushed the right buttons to keep this series at bay, to keep it even. Splitting up the defensive pairs, the second and third pairs, splitting Leon and Connor, going to Pickard. Those are 3 difficult buttons. I don't think most coaches would have gone to Pickard. That alone, real conviction and a real feel for your group. The key to success in the NHL during the regular season, during the playoffs, keeping a level head. And that sounds stupid. Professional athletes know what their objective is. They're hyper-competitive individuals. They are not the type that are going to let an opportunity go to waste, okay? But in these playoff series that are so tight, there's not a lot of separation between these 2 teams. The team that never gets too high or too low, that keeps a nice equilibrium, that's the team to keep an eye on because they're capable of responding to any situation, whether it's easy or whether it's difficult. I'll leave you with this last stat, and then we'll get out of here. The Oilers are 6-3-0 in these playoffs when they score first. That's a good number. Get out to a good start. Let your defense play with a lead. Let your goalie play with a lead where they're not skating on eggshells, where they're not holding their sticks tight, where they're going to be able to have reasonable amount of confidence. Playing with a lead, very different from playing from behind, very different from being in a tie game. You look at some of the teams in other sports, I know this is especially a thing in football where defenses that are relying on the pass rush, those teams often, they struggle when they're not playing with the lead because then they have to stop the run, and defenses that are good at rushing the passer are typically not as good at stopping the run. Running the ball keeps possession, keeps the clock moving, keeps your offense off the field. Same kind of boat. You get out to a lead, you can start playing dump and chase, you can start wearing down the other team, you can start to frustrate the other team, and that's your goal. Wear them out, frustrate them, make them beat themselves. The Oilers are good enough to make that happen. That will just about do it for today's edition of Locked On Oilers. Make sure you are subscribed wherever you get your podcasts. Leave the show a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. If you are watching over on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, hit the alarm bell to get a notification whenever new content goes live. I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Until then, let's go Oilers.